Hey everyone, this is Brian Lee Davidson Tarka. I'm reading through the Bible. I'm reading through Matthew chapter 5, and right now we're starting the Sermon on the Mount. That's what happens at the beginning of chapter 5. The Sermon on the Mount starts. And it's kind of interesting because a book was just written by a pastor who approached his congregation, and when they thought about the start of the Sermon on the Mount, they didn't believe it was to be taken seriously. And that kind of blows my mind. Let's see, and there's a few reasons for that. One, because you know people aren't taking what Jesus says seriously, so that's one. People don't take what God says seriously sometimes, and that's one of the reasons why a congregation full of people, it's like, why should I be troubled by this? And they legitimately did not believe that Jesus meant what he said in a sermon. Now, why anyone would have a sermon and and not want people to take it seriously, I don't know. That's not a sermon, that's comedy. You know, it's like, did you hear all the jokes that Jesus told at the mount? Did you go to the mount? Oh my gosh, Jesus was killing it. Oh, he was hilarious. Love you, Jesus. Oh man, I'm a big fan. No, that's not what's going on here. He's talking about some very, very serious things. In fact, he's at the beginning, he's really, really lifting a lot of people up. A lot of people that don't necessarily get lifted up. He's meeting them. A lot of people who don't feel like they're equals. He's meeting them and letting them know that they are still blessed, that God's blessings are inclusive, even though things are difficult and you feel like you're not the blessed people, you really are blessed. Okay, so that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind. Now, one of the problems in interpreting this, a lot of people feel that this is prescriptive instead of descriptive, and I think that's where we fall in with a lot of the Bible as modern day Christians. I think we think that this is that it's prescriptive, and if I don't need it, it doesn't apply to me. Because I could just look at Jesus, I could just look at this and say, uh, blessed are those who mourn. Well, I'm not mourning right now, so whatever, Jesus, cool, I'm good, thanks, whatevs. No, eventually somebody around you will be mourning, and this is part of the comfort that Christ is offering them. You know, I think that the Bible is very, very inclusive. And I see that the Bible is very, very inclusive, particularly in this passage, uh, for those who are really going through it. And this is one of the reasons why we need it. So I mean, these are just these are descriptive situations, and Christ is lifting up people who find themselves in these situations. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people did not think of these people as blessed. Okay, I think that's why he starts his sermon with this. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at these blessings, and remember that these were words of encouragement to a people that were often finding themselves in marginalized places in society. Okay, um, so yeah, yeah. Let's start. Introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. Now, when Jesus saw the crowd, he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for there oh, for there is a kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. I think about that one a lot, actually. I think about that one a lot because you don't think of the meek inheriting, but there's there's more meek than there are bold. There's more meek all over. So I mean that earth is inherited. I mean, you may think it's like, oh, but they don't own anything. It's like, well, it's their spot. They have more spots. You know, and this is one of the reasons why the poor and disenfranchised, they can rise up. They can get together and they can have a powerful voice, when they gather, and it's fantastic that they can have that voice. The meek are powerful, as ironic as it may seem. They inherit the earth. Even if someone who owns a lot of things is lording things over the meek, has more powerful than the meek, you know, in a way of ownership. Really, they're in their spot, they're in their space, and together, collectively, there is a power of an earth that they have inherited. Yeah, yeah, you might put a price tag on it, but the meek really are the inheritors. They're the ones taking care of these spots. And, I'm sure there's a lot of rich people I know who think that's crazy, but too bad. There is power. There is a power among the meek, a power that has them inheriting the earth, has a power of of local wisdom, street smarts, and all these wonderful cultural things that maybe the wealthy are missing out on, and quite often. It's not that they don't have their own culture, as they seclude themselves in big houses and whatnot. But the meek will inherit the earth, and they do inherit the earth, and God bless them and protect them where they are and with what they have. Let me continue on to verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Now that's a testimony to God's righteousness and how it does fill us. This is why there's so many Christians who, despite the fact that they get treated tremendously unfair, and we have many brothers and sisters here in America who've been treated incredibly unfair because of the color of their skin. There's a righteousness, and I think there's a history of them holding on to a righteousness. And that's not to say that anything that has happened to them is right or proper, or that they are going through the things that they should be going through. No, no. A lot of them have been through it again and again for generations, and what kept them going is the knowledge of that righteousness that God has and that they can partake in. So thank God for our brothers and sisters who are taking in that righteousness. And that's not to say what's happening to them is correct, or oppressors should say, look, you know what? I'm giving them a chance to partake in God's righteousness. No. No, if that's what you're actively doing, you're the jerk. That's so God is helping them, but God help you in another way. If you don't see that their hunger and thirst for righteousness, their hunger and thirst for something better is being filled by God, and you think that you're better off for neglecting the the good that they need. God help you. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Merciful people can be absolutely amazing, you know. I struggle with being merciful at times. Um, I I want justice sometimes, you know, especially this day and age where we see a lot of injustice going on, where people want more justice for the rich than the poor. People observing two different justice systems, how the rich get justice done one way and the poor get justice done another way. You know, that's in that it's the merciful who are absolutely amazing. You know, and the merciful will receive mercy. Now, I want to state that these aren't rules. You know, it's like, oh, well, if I want to receive mercy, I should be merciful. No, you should try to be merciful. You absolutely should. And the merciful are often shown mercy. And there's a lot of wisdom here. But but ways of wisdom aren't the same as a list of rules, of institutional rules. It's not the same thing. You know, we hope that wisdom will always pan out for us. But this, again, this is descriptive and not prescriptive. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. This makes you wonder about a lot of people who really, really love war. It's a strange thing, loving war. Loving dissonance, loving disrest. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for there is a kingdom of heaven. So, bad things happen to good people sometimes. Good people doing the right thing. And it says that there is comfort, that there is a kingdom in heaven, and sometimes it's had to be my comfort, you know. Sometimes it's had to be the comfort of many, that, you know, in heaven things will be better. And in a way, it's sad that it has to come to that, you know, that things are so bad that we have to go back and, you know, use that as our resting spot. But it's good that we can stop and say, you know what, things are going to be better in heaven. You know, we get this description of a place where things are going to be better, and we can rest. Blessed are those you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For the same way they persecuted the prophets, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So Jesus just raised the so-called laymen, the so-called ordinary people to to that of the status of the prophets. So this is a very inclusive passage of scripture. Those who are in need physically, emotionally, those who are in need of justice, those who are in need of goodness, those who are taking hard stands, these are the people that are being lifted up right now by Christ. And often these are people who have been pushed pretty low. It's they may not necessarily have been thinking, well, what about my rights? You know, for a lot of people, they don't, in different cultures, they don't necessarily think about rights. In America, you start thinking about your rights right away. Right away. It's like, well, what about my rights? It's something that we get instilled in us, you know, at a very young age. People weren't necessarily thinking about that here. You want justice, but you don't necessarily expect it in a lot of places in the world. And things are often not the way they should be. And you have Jesus reaching out to these people who know that very well and reassuring them that they have a place with God, that God is there with their struggles, with their sorrows, with their needs, and giving them comfort even though things aren't necessarily the way that they are supposed to be. And things are not the way that they are supposed to be on this side of eternity. So you guys take care. If you want to build a Bible habit and you're in a Bible reading habit and you're in America, I have some links below, and you can click on those links to look through Bibles on Amazon in America. If you're not in America and you're seeing this video, then you can click on the link to Bible Gateway and you'll see Bibles from all over the world. Check those out. My name is Brian Lee Davidson Turka, and I'm saying goodbye and be nice.